I'm returning here a quarter century after I first came to Dhanbad. Some things about this place have changed, but many things have not. On the surface, Jharia and Dhanbad district in the state of Jharkhand in eastern India looks like a typical mining town. Haphazard construction, damp, decaying, lime-covered buildings crisscrossed with congested streets filled with monsoon slush. The coal dust hangs in perpetual smog in the air. And there is the constant clanging of machinery. That is where the comparison stops. Beneath the terra firma here rages a fireball. Jharia's underground fires threaten the existence of over 400,000 people in the township. And this threat becomes more real day by day.
Jharia coalfield is unique in many ways. Let me talk about its geological structure. There are 40 coal seams which is the storehouse of India's prime coking coal. And again, it is extremely rare in India to find the quality of coal that we have in Jharia. And that's why the focus is on recovering as much coal as possible. The second characteristic which makes Jharia coalfield unique is the intensity of exploitation that it has undergone in the past and in the recent past, and difficult working conditions with multi-section workings, thick seams, problems of fires, inundations, and haphazard development. Like, it is impossible to relocate the railway lines practically, lay out new arterial roadways, and all the planning that has gone in so far has been a little lopsided. And Jharia coalfield compares with the best or the worst in terms of its complexity to coal mining areas in Czech Republic, in some parts of China, in some parts of Pennsylvania in the United States. But it suffers all the malaise that hits any coalfield which is old and ancient.
400 square kilometers, there are 70 fires.
I mean, this is a record in the world?
I think so. It would be. I don't think there is any other place with such a concentration of mine fires. That's number one. So if there are mine fires, you can imagine every time there will be a smoke. Second thing is the population density. You will not find any coal field with this kind of a population density. So many people settling over here. This 400,000 people is only a part of Jharia. I mean, it's not the full Jharia. It is only the people living in the endangered areas. The total Jharia population is more than 1 million.
Underground coal fires are burning in different parts of the world. In the United States, Indonesia, South Africa, Australia, China, Russia and Germany. But the underground fires in Jharia are different. Many of these fires that you see here, some of them have been burning for almost a century. Unlike underground coal fires in different parts of the world, which have been caused by spontaneous combustion, most of the fires here are a consequence of unscientific mining. Over the last century, underground fires have led to a loss of around 50 million tons of the best coal India possesses. Coal that should in an ideal situation be used only for manufacturing steel. But this does not tell us much about the overall scale of the loss, if one considers environmental degradation and loss of livelihood. These wisps of smoke rising eerily to the sky day after day are a grim reminder to the inhabitants of the area of the murderous inferno that lurks beneath the very ground they walk on. This used to be a road once upon a time, but you can see the terrain the way it looks right now. This is coal. It's now white. It's burning hot, and though it's raining right now, I can feel the heat beneath my feet. The most apparent damage caused by underground fires is land subsidence. The burning coal creates a vacuum underground, causing land to subside. Hundreds of buildings have collapsed. Railway lines have been closed down. These pictures are all that remains of railway stations that were once busy. अच्छा, मैं एक सवाल आपसे पूछना चाहता हूँ। ये ज़मीन के नीचे से आग जल रहे हैं, आप यहाँ पे काम कर रहे हैं, आप डर नहीं रहे? ये इसमें खतरा नहीं?
खतरा तो कुछ नहीं है, गैस निकलता है, यही लगता है, थोड़ा गर्म लगता है।
यहाँ आग जल रही है ज़मीन के नीचे?
हाँ, उसके अंदर।
तो आप डरते नहीं बिल्कुल?
जी नहीं। इसलिए डरेंगे? इसमें डरने की कोई बात नहीं है।
जान का खतरा नहीं बिल्कुल?
कुछ भी नहीं, कोई खतरा नहीं।
बिल्कुल?
बिल्कुल नहीं।
आप ये वेल्डिंग का काम कर रहे हैं, आप टेम्पो का काम कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे, और ज़मीन के नीचे आग जल रही है, इसमें बिल्कुल खतरा नहीं है, आप कह रहे हैं?
जल जाए कोई पता नहीं है। तो बात है कि धंसने के लिए इसमें कोई गारंटी नहीं कि कब धंस सकते हैं, और इसमें है खतरा भी जानते, पर क्या करेगा, खतरा तो है।
See, right in front of me, there's smoke coming out. There's an underground fire beneath my feet. And next to it, not even 2 or 3 feet away, there are these 2 young boys repairing the engine of a vehicle. And if you just go down this road, you don't even have to travel 100 meters, there's a petrol pump. But for all intents and purposes, life is normal in Jharia township. Two-thirds of the energy consumed in India is generated by coal. Coal mining accounts for more than 3/4 of the total mining operations in the country. India is the 3rd largest producer of coal in the world. Mining in Jharia started more than a century ago when the British came to this region in search of minerals. What they found was not only the best quality coking coal. They discovered that unlike most coal fields, the most valuable coal in Jharia was close to the surface. Thus began a long phase of mining. much of the coal that was extracted by private mine owners was done in an unscientific manner, a euphemism for slaughter mining. The intention was to extract as much coal as possible with no thought for preserving the environment or the safety of workers.
This is a legacy that we are having from the British time. When I worked in coal mines, I saw that the slaughter mining had been taking place during British time itself. The galleries, which should be about say 12 feet or 14 feet wide, there are 30 feet wide galleries, 30 feet high. Such are the coal mines that I have seen. So due to slaughter mining, the coal fires have taken place underground, not proper ventilation, because of the reasons that I think you know, and the whole the topography, the life, everything of the Jharia coalfield has been changed.
It was for preventing unscientific mining, increasing output, and in order to provide better working conditions for miners that the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi and former Minister for Steel and Mines S. Mohan Kumaramangalam decided in favor of nationalization. When nationalization became imminent, almost overnight, the names of hundreds of people, including those of hoodlums, were hastily added to the rolls of employees of private mine owners.
There was a lot of ghost workers in the mining industry. People who were present only on rolls. Thanks to nationalization, when all this was rationalized, we found that there was a large segment of the mining workers who didn't exist. In fact, I did a study for the World Bank on rationalization of the manpower in coal industry, and I said that there must have been at least 10,000 people who didn't exist.
71 के बाद समझिए कि ये भ्रष्टाचार का बाजार बहुत गर्म हुआ और इससे क्या हुआ कि जो काम होना चाहिए था उस वक्त कोयला खदान से निकल रहा था, कोयला लोग मतलब जा रहा था, कोई देख नहीं रहे थे, कोयला चोरी पर चोरी हो रहा था.
Nationalization of coal mines took place very late. Yet, ironically, government control over the ownership and management of coal mines did not significantly improve the economic condition of the Dhanbad Jharia area. By the turn of the millennium, the finances of Bharat Coking Coal Limited were in a mess. Production had come down from 28 million tons in 1999-2000 to less than 23 million tons 4 years later.
I joined in November 2003 and I found that this company is in the worst kind of crisis. No provision of replacements, huge losses. The losses were of the order of 600 to 700 crores a year. Huge cash losses, 300 to 350 crores of cash losses. And successive cash losses over a period of 5 years had led to accumulated liabilities of a staggering amount. 1,500 crores of staggering liabilities. Liabilities to pension fund and PF authorities, more than 360 crores, which means at any point of time prosecution is possible. Employees were not getting their retirement benefits in time, naturally because I have not put money with CMPF. How can CMPF give the money to employees? Employees are only getting the net salary, and that too with a delay of 20 to 25 days or 30 days.
BCCL had to be turned around. One part of the strategy was to stop recruiting. The total number of employees of BCCL came down from a high of 140,000 in 1990-91 to 87,000 in 2005-2006. This number is expected to come down further to 58,000 by 2011-2012 with an annual attrition rate of 5,500.
सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है यहाँ का बेरोजगारी, चूँकि जो कल कारखाने जो चालू हुए थे वो सारे बंद पड़ गए हैं और नौजवानों के समक्ष जो है रोजगार का सबसे बड़ा दिक्कत हो रहा है। और जो पुराने माइंस चले हुए थे उसको सरकार ने बंद नहीं कराया और उसमें जो थोड़ा बहुत कोयला बचा हुआ है उसको निकालने के लिए गांव के युवक जो हैं अपने जान को जोखिम में डालकर 700-800 फीट नीचे जाते हैं और उनको मात्र 60 या 70 रुपया मिलता है।
This is the entrance to the headquarters of Bharat Coking Coal Limited or BCCL. For the first time since its inception in 1971, in the year 2005-2006, the company earned a profit.
We have made a sea change in the fortunes of this company by taking a couple of strategic decisions. And today what you find is a very different Dhanbad, a very different Jharia. At least if you meet the people here, they are getting salaries in time. All their PF dues have been cleared. The CISF dues are a matter of past. The suppliers are being paid just like any other company would have been paid. The company in terms of liquidity is in a far better position today. The company has been able to report its first ever profit in 2005-06 of a little more than 200 crores.
What is the impression, not only see the condition of the people, but condition of this industrial area? What do you find? You find a picture of decay, not a flourishing picture of something is developing. You find a picture, see, of decay. All those workers' colonies, they are deteriorating. Collieries are getting closed, one after another you find. The few things are moving.
One of the most important changes that have taken place in this region over the decades is that BCCL has been reducing its labor-intensive underground mining operations and emphasizing open-cast mining, which is more capital-intensive.
After mechanization of coal and nationalization of coal, the labor input in mining became absolutely inconsequential. 100 laborers were replaced by about 2 laborers, skilled laborers. So, all the inhabitants who were miners earlier have become now degraded as far as their lifestyle is concerned. Antisocial life and all sorts of vices have cropped in. It's a tragedy.
Underground mining employs more workers, but losses mount. Open-cast mining, on the other hand, is cost-effective but destroys the environment.
The land surface values have been totally lost. No vegetation because you have a lot of smoke and toxic material coming out through the cracks and fissures, heat, so the vegetation has gone, and a lot of subsidence of the land because of the shallow underground fires. So that is the main effect on the environment is on the land. On water, similarly, there is no water in the Jharia area which is potable or even usable in agriculture or irrigation. But the coalfield areas, there is such a lot of burning of fossil fuels, it builds up gases in the atmosphere, and even the Landsat images taken all around the world shows that these are red spots of heated up atmosphere, the coalfield areas. And in almost every mining area has this problem, but because of the underground fires, the problem is much more acute in the Jharia coalfield area.
The impact of coal mining has not been on the external environment alone. It has devastated the health of those who live here. Most miners and their family members have been regularly exposed to noxious toxic gases. The oxides and dioxides of carbon and nitrogen have led to bronchial and respiratory diseases. This woman seems far older than her actual age of around 40. She has been living near a fire area and has been suffering from respiratory ailments for 2 years. No doctor has visited her, nor has she been able to afford one.
कोई डॉक्टर नहीं आता यहाँ? तो आपको कभी भी कोई डॉक्टर नहीं देखा है? आपको 2 साल से तकलीफ है? कोई डॉक्टर नहीं देखा है यहाँ?
पैसा रहेगा 400-500 1000 रुपये तो ना, हम लोग गरीब आदमी कहाँ से।
परेशानी तो सर है ही है, छोटा छोटा बच्चे के ऊपर ज़्यादा असर पड़ता है। क्या असर मतलब कि खांसी खोखी मान लो कि जो भी है, फीवर आ जाता है, ये सबसे परेशानी है।
ज़मीन के नीचे जो आग है उसके चलते जो तकलीफ़ है यहाँ का आदमी लोगों का, वो सबसे ज़्यादा है गैस की प्रॉब्लम है। यही जो गैस निकलती है खूनी गैस है, वो बारिश होने के बाद ज़्यादा निकलती है। इसके चलते बच्चों का, बड़ों का, जो एजेड आदमी हैं जिसको हाइपरटेंशन या कुछ भी प्रॉब्लम, हार्ट का प्रॉब्लम है, उसको सांस लेने में काफ़ी प्रॉब्लम होता है।
ये जो महीन धूल है, हवा में भी है, वर्क प्लेस में भी है, तो इसके चलते कुछ फेफड़े की बीमारियां जैसे ब्रोंकाइटिस, ब्रोंकियल एज़मा, ब्रोंकिएक्टेसिस, ये सब थोड़ा होता है। माने फेफड़े की बीमारियां, हंपनी का बीमारी जिसे कहते हैं, ब्रोंकियल एज़मा, ये सब। प्लस कुछ थोड़ी बहुत कोलोअकस निमोकोनियोसिस भी पाए जाते हैं। और इसके अलावा ये जो पानी का भी बीमारी यहाँ कुछ ज़्यादा है। वाटरबॉर्न डिजीज़ जिसे कहते हैं, जैसे आप लोग जानते हैं ये पानी की बीमारी जैसे पेचिस, मियादी बुखार, कैदस्त की बीमारी।
While undernourishment in children is less of a problem in Dhanbad in comparison to other parts of the region, the children of miners suffer from a different set of diseases.
The problem is respiratory tract infections, and that is because of the not only dust, because of the bad roads. Because the bad roads, the trucks and all which are going there, the sand spills out, other things spills out, and the whole atmosphere is full of these contaminants. So we have maximum, if you go to the ward, you will find about 80% cases of respiratory tract infection. Patients are full of bronchopneumonias, small children, and that is one of the, I think the major cause is because of the environmental pollution which is there because of the dust.
environment alone does not kill. Violation of mining laws is a major killer. Mining accounts for only 1% of total employment the world over, but nearly 7% of fatal accidents in the workplace. In the Jharkhand area, an estimated 1,500 miners have died in more than 30 mining accidents over the last 6 decades. 800 miners have died in the decade of the 80s and the 90s. As recently as the 6th of September 2006, 50 miners were gassed to death in an underground mine in the Nagda colliery in the Bhatdi area in Jharia. The then chairman and managing director of BCCL, Parthasarathi Bhattacharya, acknowledged that at least half the mines in the area did not meet basic safety standards.
If you look mining laws and compare with other laws, that it has to be, that each portion of the law has to be fulfilled in its letters, not in spirit, then mining probably cannot be made possible. Therefore, there has to be a fine balance between what is practicable, what needs to be given emphasis, and which are the areas which need to be looked beyond the laws also.
Underground mining is a very, very risky venture here, because this is a company with a unique geology, unique in the whole world. We have 20 overlaying seams, one after the other. And most of the upper seams have been worked. Most of the upper seams, you know very well because you have been here in the past, are on fires. Every underground mine has at least 1 or 2 seams on fire, and 1 or 2 seams are waterlogged, and we are working under that. So you can imagine the kind of risks that are being taken here.
The problem is, because mining is a constant fight against nature, where you are disturbing the equilibrium of nature, there are a lot of decisions to be taken at every step, and these decisions sometimes go wrong. And when the decisions go wrong, maybe a percentage of time they lead to accidents.
What you see behind me could have been straight out of a science fiction film. It could have been the crater of the moon, except for the fact that it's all very, very real. Beneath me, there's smoke coming out, there are fires burning, and right over there, you see men, women, and children working, gathering coal. All of it is illegal, but they don't have a choice. They have to live. The undercurrents of tension in the region are palpable even to an outsider. Large sections of the local population comprising low-caste Dalits and economically backward tribals or Adivasis are often pitted against relatively affluent upper-caste non-locals. The district administration, the law-enforcing agencies, and the public sector management have been engaged in regular skirmishes with politically well-connected gangsters who run lucrative coal and sand transportation businesses, corner construction contracts, conduct money lending operations, and organize theft of coal. On the 28th of April 1982, parts of the body of a young man were found along the railway tracks near Dhanbad station. It was subsequently discovered that the limbs and the torso belonged to a 29-year-old auditor, Shashwato Sundar Das, who had been employed by a Kolkata-based audit firm that had been engaged to audit the accounts of Bharat Coking Coal Limited. Dash had unearthed widespread irregularities in the sand stowing contracts of the company. Sand is supposed to be stored in underground mines after coal has been extracted. But contractors engaged to transport sand, in collusion with BCCL officials, would fudge books of accounts to indicate that far more sand had been transported than what had actually been done. Das paid for his life because of his honesty. It took more than 24 years for the long arm of the law to book some of the criminals who had been responsible for his murder. On the 28th of June 2006, the Special Court at Dhanbad, handling cases instituted by the Central Bureau of Investigation, found 11 persons guilty of conspiring to murder Das. Among them were 4 former employees of BCCL.
उस वक्त यहाँ पर माफियाओं का वर्चस्व था धनबाद में, कोयलवरी क्षेत्रों में। तो इन लोगों ने उसका ठेका माफियाओं को ही मिला और ये लोग उस कोयलवरी में बालू भराई के बदले वो सिर्फ कागज़ पर ही बालू भराई हो गया और कोयलवरीज में जो है सो कि बालू नहीं भरा गया। और उसी केस का ऑडिट करने के लिए एसएस दास कोलकाता से यहाँ आए हुए थे और उनके ऑडिट से बहुत सारे जो घोटालेज हैं उनका जो है पर्दाफाश हो जाना तय था। इस वजह से उनकी हत्या की गई सुनियोजित तरीके से।
What cannot be denied is the fact that pilferage and theft have become a way of life in many parts of the Jharia coalfield. Entire communities are dependent on pilferage of coal for their livelihood. Everybody knows what is going on, but little or nothing is done about it.
There was a terrible shortage of coal, and they captured this loading system of coal. And I don't know, I'm very sorry to say, the colliery managers could not put their foots down on these mafias at the time of loading of coal.
I understand that it is the mafia that controls the loading of coal into wagons. Once the coal is taken out, it has to be loaded into wagons. It is the mafia that reportedly controls the loading of coals into wagons, and if you do not pay the money that they demand, and I'm told it can go up to 3 lakhs per rake, coal does not get loaded into into the wagons. A great deal of stone gets loaded into the wagon. So that is it's known to be true. It's known to be true, and I also understand that it's very, very difficult for the top management to do anything about it.
I remember one of the deputy commissioners telling me that those days, Dhanbad was part of Bihar, and every year, they used to record around 400 murders officially. The police records would show that 400 murders have been committed. And he once asked me, that do you know that we conduct postmortems on more than 1200 bodies every year, and the 800 extra bodies which were being sent for postmortem, they were all hit and run cases from the GT road. And this gentleman told me, I distinctly remember, that he was convinced that most of these hit and run cases were also murders. People would be killed, and then they would run over trucks over them, and to make it appear as if they are hit and run cases. So Jharia and Dhanbad always symbolized a certain degree of ruthlessness and violence. I know it for a fact that from Dhanbad crates of scotch were sent to Delhi to fairly well-known politicians, for Christmas parties and other parties. The mafia from Dhanbad, imagine, would be hiring sort of 3 coupes of Rajdhani Express and sending them crates of scotch. Now this is something which is not fiction. This happens. Why they had to do it from Dhanbad, I can't say. They could have as easily bought it from Delhi, I guess. But we know that these things happen. We also know, as I said, that people in Dhanbad have a lot of money. It's not that they don't have wealth. And because there is wealth, they have been able to buy up, the police, the lower bureaucracy, people in the railways, in transport sections and so on. In fact, even a Director General of Police once told me, that he was aware that police stations in and around Dhanbad were auctioned. The highest bidder, would get the charge of these police stations.
The image of Dhanbad and the image of Jharia in the rest of India is that this is a place which is crime-ridden. There's no law and order. Mafia gangs are controlling the administration, hand in glove in collusion with the police, with the management of BCCL, with so-called trade union leaders. A lot of people, not only in the rest of India, but in the rest of the world, have this negative perception or image of Dhanbad. Is this justified?
I won't say on the point that whether it is justified or not, but it is certainly incorrect. In Dhanbad, I think everything is normal, and I don't see any gross irregularity going on here.
अवैध उत्खनन तो होता ही है. अवैध उत्खनन में जितना प्रशासन जिम्मेवार है, उतना ही ये कोल कंपनी के जो व्यवस्थापक हैं वो भी उतने ही जिम्मेवार हैं. आज यहाँ पे कोई भी बड़े अफसरान की बदली जो है 15-20 लाख 25 लाख रुपये देने के बाद ही यहाँ पे होती है. कभी कभी कोई बदली जो है यहाँ पे 1-1 करोड़ रुपए तक की बोली लोग लगा के यहाँ पे आते हैं.
Illegal mining is rampant in this area, and this is known to everybody and his brother. 2 senior officers of the Directorate General of Mine Safety shot this video showing illegal mining taking place in the Magma area along the Jharkhand-West Bengal border.
There is a lot of unemployment, and people in search of their own bread, in search of their livelihood, often resort to illegal mining. But what is disturbing is the profile of such people often we find engaged in illegal mining. We find children, we find ladies, we find many people who are from the lowest economic ladder of the society. We have to find out ways and means as to give or create a situation or an environment where some of these people can be given gainful employment.
These are some areas we visited where illegal mining takes place. But nobody really knows the extent of illegal mining.
इलीगल माइनिंग को लेकर अभी कोई स्टैटिस्टिकल रिपोर्ट या उस तरह का कोई एक आंकड़ा नहीं है, लेकिन डेफिनेटली ये भी एक इंडस्ट्री है. इट इज अ पैरेलल इंडस्ट्री. बीसीसीएल के साथ एक पैरेलल इंडस्ट्री चल रही है, और अगर बीसीसीएल 100% अगर आप उसको कहें तो ये जो अभी कारोबार चल रही है 70% से ज्यादा है.
Unemployment created by these closure of the mines, etc., that has forced the actual people, the tribals or the poor people, to do this type of illegal things. But entire illegal mining, so-called illegal mining, is controlled by the non-tribals and non-Jharkhandis.
The police is trying to prevent illegal mining. The local people want it because it is there in their blood, it is in their day-to-day life. They want earning, they want something to live. Certain people, not all of them, but certain people have always done this. So we are trying to rehabilitate them also. We are also talking to the organizations. We are also talking to the people in BCCL that how this permanent solution to this problem can be achieved. And because you just can't get hold of people, send them to jail. When they come out, they again indulge in that. Ultimately, sometimes they also die.
Khoirkiari village is located at the tri-junction of 3 rivers. We are in Dhanbad district, and across the rivers are 2 districts of West Bengal. On the 1st of August 2006, 10 villagers had died while mining for coal illegally. The unauthorized mine they were working in got flooded. The families of the villagers who died could not claim compensation. This was not only because their activities were illegal, but also on account of the fact that those who died were at that time in a state in which they were not residing.
আমাদের গ্রামে চাকরি বাকরি নাই, 2-3টা চাকরি আছে, আমাদের ওই সকল নিয়েই শোচনীয়। সেই হিসাবে আমাদেরকে বাধ্য হয়ে 2 নম্বরই হোক 1 নম্বরই হোক আমাদেরকে কর্ম করতে হয়, কাজকর্ম করতে হয়, 50-60 টাকা 70 টাকা যেরকম হাজিরি পাওয়ানো হয়।
কতদিন ধরে চলছে?
মোটামুটি তাও 20 বছর।
এই যে লোক মারা গেছে এরপরেও কি তারপরে লোক আবার করবে একই কাজ?
না, ওটা আর কোনো উপায় নেই, এবারে ভাটা হোক আর কিছু কোনো নাই, কোনো কর্ম করতে হবে। সরকার কোনো আমাদের জন্য কোনো হেল্প করলো না, কোনো সাহায্য করলো না, ওদের লাশ পর্যন্ত উঠানো হলো না। আজ পর্যন্ত আমাদের গ্রামের লোকের যে দাবি আছে যে ওরা হয়তো মারা গেছে, সেই জন্য যে আমাদের ডেথ সার্টিফিকেট চাই। ওদের অনেকের কাজ আছে, অনেকের জমি জায়গা আছে, অনেকের কোনো ব্যবসা আছে, কোনো জায়গায় টাকা রাখা আছে, সেই জন্য যে আমাদের এখন সরকারের একান্ত প্রয়োজন ডেথ সার্টিফিকেট, সেটা পর্যন্ত এখন পর্যন্ত সরকার বানিয়ে দিচ্ছে।
An aspiring young filmmaker using a handycam shot this video of illegal mining taking place. People were lighting candles inside abandoned mines that could have contained highly inflammable methane gas. After he shot this video, he was threatened and his camera was snatched away from him.
निकल जाइए आप। वहाँ से जब मैं वो फुटेज ले करके जब बाहर जाने लगा, वहाँ के जो दबंग लोग थे, जो गुंडा किस्म के थे, उन्होंने पकड़ लिया, बोला आप कहाँ पेपर से रिलेटेड हो, न्यूज़ पेपर से, आप ज़रूर उसको दिखाइएगा। तो बोला नहीं भाई मैं तो यहाँ लोकल आइड हूँ। उन लोगों ने मेरा कैमरा छीन लिया, कैमरा छीन के फिर बहुत रिक्वेस्ट के मैंने उनको अपना वोटर ID कार्ड दिखाया कि यहाँ लोकल भाई हूँ, लोकल बंदा हूँ, तो तभी मेरे को लोग छोड़े।
Leaders of political parties have suggested that coal be legally provided to local residents for their cooking and heating needs, so that they do not pilfer coal or mine coal illegally from abandoned mines at great danger to their lives.
कि यहाँ के जो गांव के गरीब हैं, जिनका तमाम कुछ कोयला खदान के नीचे चले गए हैं, उसके बदले में क्या उनको मिला है, इसका हिसाब करने का दिन आया है। आपको मान्यता देना पड़ेगा कि ये मजदूर है, ये मेहनत से खाता है, और इनके जो कोयला है वो बीसीसीएल को खरीदना पड़ेगा। बीसीसीएल वो कोयला को खरीदे, माफिया तंत्र को खत्म करे, और ये जो मान्यता है उनको कि वो लोग कोयला खदान में मेहनत करने वाले लोग हैं, ये मान्यता उसको देना पड़ेगा।
बहुत रोजगार के नहीं होने की वजह से सब हो रहा है, इसलिए हमने कहा कि इसको रोजगार के साथ जोड़ा जाए। कोयले में जितने प्रकार के होंगे उसमें इनको जोड़ा जाना चाहिए, गांव के लोगों को, बेरोजगारों को। और अधिकतर वहाँ पर गड़बड़ी हो रही है जहाँ बंद खदान है, जहाँ कोयला निकालना बंद छोड़ दिया गया, वैसे जगह पर कोयला निकाल लेते हैं जो बचा खुचा है, और थोड़ा बहुत बचा खुचा कोयला तो कंपनी निकाल भी नहीं सकती क्योंकि उसमें खर्च ज़्यादा पड़ता है। तो उसके मजदूर के लिए तो बहुत अधिक है कि हमने कहा है कि इसको रोजगार से जोड़ो, उन सब कोयले को खोला जाए और इसको कोऑपरेटिव बनाए खोलिए, और आप जो नीति निर्धारण करिए। आपको डर है, हमारा कंपनी को डर है कि भाई कोयला बर्बाद होगा तो आप खरीदिए।
Bindeshwari Prasad Sinha was one of the best known political leaders of Dhanbad. He used to head the local unit of the Indian National Trade Union Congress, or INTUC, that is affiliated to the ruling Congress party. A sophisticated labor leader, he acquired considerable prominence in the post-nationalization period.
He was at one time associate of KB Sahai, who was the chief minister of Bihar, and who in fact tried to implement land reforms to an extent, which he didn't succeed entirely, but he did try. Now BP Sinha was part of this kind of a relatively progressive sort of congressman in Bihar. But over time, what happened is that he carved out his niche and empire in the coal fields, and he set himself up as a huge sort of political leader in this part of the world. And his style was very much part of a kind of a aristocratic style. His house, his home, was called the White House, and he had this palatial and well-guarded and mansion.
But I do remember the mystic surrounding the White House, the bungalow in which he lived. And everybody, said that he was like an aristocrat, and he would not do any dirty things himself, but he just needed to make a phone call and get people bumped off. It was that simple for him.
तो आप समझते हैं बीपी सिन्हा धनबाद का पहला माफिया बॉस थे?
लोग तो यही कहते हैं।
अभी सहमत?
हम बिल्कुल सहमत। जितना सुना हूँ उनके बारे में लगता तो यही है, लेकिन ये भी है कि यहाँ माफियाओं का स्टार क्रेज है। आज यहाँ पे हेमा मालिनी आ जाए, आज यहाँ श्रीदेवी आ जाए, आज यहाँ करीना कपूर आ जाए, और आज यहाँ सूरज सिंह आ जाए, तो ये 3-4 जो स्टार हैं, जितनी भीड़ जुटाने की कुव्वत रखते हैं, उतनी कुव्वत यहाँ का एक माफिया जुटाने की रखता है। तो यहाँ माफियाओं का क्रेज है, स्टार क्रेज है। यहाँ माफियाओं का स्टार क्रेज है। यहाँ के जो लड़के हैं आमतौर पे जिन भी घरों के हों, वो बड़े होकर एक बड़ा माफिया बनना चाहते हैं। वो धनबाद की मानसिकता में रची बसी है ये चीज़ें।
It was a balmy evening in September 1978. BP Sinha was drinking his evening peg of Scotch whiskey. His granddaughter was playing in front of him. 4 men walked into the White House and pumped a volley of bullets into him. When I met Suraj Dev Singh for the first time in May 1987, he told me he had been jailed because his political opponents had falsely implicated him because they were envious of his popularity among workers. Singh added that he had broken away from his former mentor because BP Sinha had betrayed the interests of workers. I asked him how many trucks and dumpers he owned. Why should I tell you? He shot back, adding that the income tax department may go after him if such information was made public. He was supremely confident. He considered his guru to be Chandrasekhar, who went on to become Prime Minister of India.
So I asked Chandrasekhar ji, I was really surprised to hear that this Pehlwan Surya Dev Singh was an absolute mafia don. He has your blessings? That's not possible, Chandrasekhar ji. हमने तुम्हारा story पढ़ा और बिल्कुल गलत करा. He seemed very angry. I said, Chandrasekhar ji, why are you saying? He said, no, you are a normally sensible fellow. You must investigate properly. No, there is another side. A lot of people want to defame him. He's a nice man. He does a lot of things for the poor. So I realized that I was really surprised. I asked many people who were close to Chandrasekhar, and they said, please don't talk to Surya Dev Singh. We've tried to tell him also. There he has absolutely, a blind spot.
I was the first deputy commissioner who took courage to put Suraj Dev Singh under MESA. It was a different matter that after I passed this order, state government did not approve this order as it was required under the law. So therefore he was released after some time. But when I did that, the entire Dhanbad town was stunned because they could not imagine that this could ever have happened. Such was the terror of Suraj Dev Singh.
आपका पिताजी जब यहाँ पे थे, जब वो विधायक थे, अब तो 15 साल हो गए हैं, वो गुजर गए हैं जी। उनके बारे में भी ऐसे आरोप लगाया गया था। उनको ऐसे हमारे पास अखबार है, मैगजीन है जिसमें उनका तस्वीर छपा और लिखा है माफिया डॉन ऑफ धनबाद। क्यों ऐसे इनके बारे में ऐसे आरोप लगाया गया था?
उस समय के कुछ दबंग लोग जो अपने आप को माफिया कहते थे और अपने आप को यहाँ का सर्वे सर्वा मानते थे, उनका विरोध करने की हिम्मत हमारे पिताजी ने की थी। मजदूरों का हक दिलाने की लड़ाई हमारे पिता ने लड़ी थी। मजबूरों पर, मजलूमों पर जुल्म ढाने वालों को रोकने का काम हमारे पिताजी ने किया था। इसी कारणवश उनके ऊपर इस तरीके का जो इल्ज़ाम है वो लगा। धनबाद में घूम करके देखिए कि विधायक जी के घर में बहुत ऐसे घर आपको मिलेंगे जहाँ पर भगवान के बगल में विधायक जी की तस्वीर है, हमारे पापा की तस्वीर है। लोग उन्हें देवता समान मानते थे।
उनके खिलाफ केस भी लगा था। लोग कहते थे बीपी सिन्हा जी के खून के पीछे उनके आदमी थे। बहुत सारे आरोप लोग उस समय तो लगाते थे। क्यों ऐसे लोग आपका पिताजी के खिलाफ लड़ते? सिर्फ क्या कि वो आम आदमी के लिए कुछ करने चाहते थे, इसीलिए जी हाँ, उनके खिलाफ लोग पसंद नहीं किया, वो चाहता नहीं कि वो कुछ करे।
आप मेरे से ये बताएं कि क्या किसी मजदूर को उसका हक दिलाना अपराध है? आज श्रमिक राजनीति के नाम पर या आम राजनीति के नाम पर यहाँ दुकान चलती है। अगर मेरे पिता ने ऐसा काम किया होता तो आज 15 साल बाद भी, उनके गुजरने के 15 साल बाद भी उनका नाम लोग इस तरह से नहीं लेते, उनको लोग देवता की तरह नहीं मानते.
This is a pretty decent house, even by the standards of metropolitan areas in India. By Dhanbad standards, this is positively palatial. This is the house, Singh Mansion, where Suraj Deo Singh used to live till he died on the 15th of June 1991 when he was 51 years old. The tribals of the Dhanbad region have over the decades been alienated from their water, their forests and their land. Once proud hunters and tillers of the soil have been reduced to illegal miners and pilferers of coal.
The area was tribal dominated area, but the entire business opportunities, they have been grabbed by the people who originally do not belong to that place. There has been lack of education among the tribals and they have been exploited.
यहाँ के जो आदिवासी लोग हैं, ये जल, जंगल और ज़मीन, ये तीन चीज़ से जुड़े हुए थे. तो इनके पास सबसे पहले तो ज़मीन छिन गई. कुछ तो लोग जो लैंडलॉर्ड्स बने उनके हाथ चले गए, कुछ जो बचे तो कोल इंडिया में गए, एक्वायर हुआ, और जंगल जो वो सरकार के पास चली गई. तो इन और जल का प्रबंध है नहीं. तो तीन तरफ से अगर एक समाज अफेक्टेड होता है जिसका कोई दूसरा जरिया नहीं था कमाने का, वो इन्हीं तीन पे आश्रित थे. तो अगर तीन के तीनों चीज़ उनके हाथ से निकल जाए तो फिर उनकी स्थिति क्या होगी? जो हो सकती है वही हो रही है. इसलिए उनका जो है स्थिति इतना दयनीय है.
For many decades now, the government and the BCCL authorities have been unsuccessfully trying to relocate 400,000 people who live in Jharia. These people are not merely residing on top of India's best coal reserves. Their very existence is in danger because of underground fires. But many people in Jharia refuse to believe that they would be properly rehabilitated after they have been relocated.
Jharia township will go because the fire is approaching the Jharia township today or tomorrow.
Possibly going to be the world's largest peacetime evacuation program. And most people here, I've not met a single person here who believes that it can be done.
I would say that they are right in their own manner because they have not seen any action on the ground to enforce a belief that is going to happen. But deep in my heart, I feel that this is certainly going to take place. We will have the political will. I mean, the political will is going to come in by some day or the other. It's a question of time only. Once the plan is prepared and it is approved by the government at its appropriate forum, the action will start. And you will see action, let me tell you, 1.5 years from now you will see the action to start. And
So you're going to see the action only at the end of 2007?
2007, yes. That much of time it will take. because it is being given the final touches, and after all the Supreme Court is after it. So they will see to it that the action takes place. The President of India is interested in this, the Prime Minister's office is interested in this.
And how long will it take from the end of 2007?
We have shortened the whole time schedule. Originally the plan was 20 years. We have shortened it to 10 years. So once it starts, it will be a 10-year program.
So 2007 to 2017, Jharia township and 400,000 people will not exist.
Oh, of course they will exist.
No.
They will exist in a much better shape. Yeah, they will exist in a much better shape. They will exist in a much cleaner environment. And at least I wish that the present generation has already spoiled their health. At least the next generation will come up in a much better environment.
एक बार जो चीज डिस्प्लेस्ड होता है वो फिर प्लेस्ड नहीं हो सकता, क्योंकि ये ह्यूमन मटेरियल है. ये किसी चीज का किसी कुर्सी को खसका के आप दूसरी जगह नहीं रख रहे हैं. ह्यूमन मटेरियल को आप कभी भी उस तरह से डिस्प्लेस करके प्लेसमेंट नहीं कर सकते, वो संभव नहीं हो सकता है. इसलिए लोग जो है अपनी जगह से मरते दम तक जाना नहीं चाहता है कि नहीं मेरा एक घर है. मान लीजिए जहाँ जिसका जन्म हुआ है, जिस गली में वो घुमा है, जिस आम का पेड़ में वो खेला है, वो इमोशनल टच जो है उसको वो लगता है कि लास्टली हम जल जाएं वो मंजूर है, यहाँ से न जाएं.
हम लोग यहाँ रहती हैं. 1932 वाला खतियान वाला हम लोग को जमीन का कागज हटाने के बाद चल रहा है. तो हम लोग को जैसे कि मांग जो हम लोग को नौकरी के लिए ये है, तो नौकरी बिना हम लोग नहीं उठेंगे. नहीं, ये जो आग लगा है ये सब बीसीसीएल जानबूझ के ही ओपन कास्ट करके ये लाइन ठोकर खत्म करा दिया.
Why is this part of India so wealthy in terms of mineral resources, so economically backward?
गरीबी रहने का एक तो पहला बात, आदिवासी लोग अशिक्षित हैं, शिक्षा का कमी उनके अंदर है. दूसरी बात है वहाँ जो कोयला का बहुत पहले से उत्पादन शुरू हुआ और कोयला मजदूर रह गए, और मजदूरी के बाद फिर उन्होंने दूसरा कोई सोचा नहीं, मजदूर का बेटा मजदूर, मजदूर का बेटा मजदूर रहा.
The source of sustenance of all these people, not the mining people, but the people who lived in the area, was land. That land has been lost to mining, collapse, open cast mining. So they have nothing to fall back on for sustenance. So the only way out, they have joined the chain of mafia gang who pilfer the coal.
ये जो जमीन के नीचे कोयला है, ये किसी के लिए हीरा है, किसी के लिए सोना है, और किसी के लिए रोटी है. जिनके लिए रोटी है वो मौत की मांद में रोटी निकालने के लिए घुसते हैं, वो कोयला निकालने के लिए नहीं घुसते हैं. वो जान को हाथ में लेके, हथेली में लेके मौत का जोखिम उठाकर वो कोयला निकालते हैं, और ज़्यादातर मुनाफा माफिया उठा ले जाते हैं. गरीबी का मूल कारण ये है.
Mafia, after all, really was seen as a big city phenomenon. You know, Dawood, or of course the famous, American Godfather. But this operated in a small coaling town, and the mafia was just incredible. It was as well organized as the big urban this thing, and they controlled, since there was nobody really to protest. I mean, their control was far more. No mafia, Dawood could never ever imagine to have that kind of political protection as what Surajdev Singh or Sahadev Singh enjoyed.
And what is the future of Dhanbad? Can a new millennium city come up here one day? Or is Dhanbad's future as black as the coal that lies beneath its surface?
इसको अगर सही तरह से कहा जाए, कोयला का अगर सही तरह से मैनेजमेंट हो, मतलब जो बोल रहे हैं कि इलीगल माइनिंग कर रहा है, हम तो कह रहे हैं कि इलीगल माइनिंग तो ये लोग मजबूरी में पेट के भूख को मिटाने के लिए लोग, इसको अगर सही तरह से कोऑपरेटिव या समवाय तरीका से किया जाए तो यहाँ का जो कोयला है, यहाँ का बेरोजगारी भी हल हो सकता है.
I lived in England and in Scotland for 7.5 years. I saw conditions there. I had gone to Glasgow, Newcastle, similar places. In fact, Newcastle, as you know, is where the coal goes to. But this kind of abject poverty comes when there is no recognition of the fact there are a large section of human beings in this country who is not going to be able to make it unless the state creates avenues for them to earn.
When you look back and you think of the kind of terror which I saw in Dhanbad, of the kind of vast numbers of people this mafia controlled, can anybody, any jihadi group dare to claim even 1/100th of this? I mean, so I think sometimes we tend to lose our priorities. We tend to, in the media today think only in a particular, definition of terror. Because what I found in Dhanbad, that was real terror.
It's been 5 days since I returned to Dhanbad after a gap of a quarter of a century. I go back tired, but with very, very mixed feelings. For some, the future is indeed as black as the coal that lies beneath the surface of Dhanbad and Jharia. But just like the underground fires which have been burning for 100 years, within people I see that fire burning, that yearning for change. There are people here who are wildly optimistic. They believe Dhanbad can become better than not just Kolkata and Mumbai, but even Delhi. But I'm not so sure I share their optimism.
डाल की मन घर ले गई, मन घर ले गई। खुशबू डाल की मन घर ले गई, गजब था रंग जमाल। भोर भोर भोर